She looked straight at me and said, "If you can't trust me hanging out with my ex every weekend, then maybe the problem is you, Ethan." I didn't respond. Not because I had nothing to say, but because I knew no matter what came out of my mouth, she'd twist it into proof that I was controlling. Emily always had that gift, making you feel guilty for reacting to her mistakes. My name's Ethan, I'm 29, a software engineer in Seattle. She's Emily, a freelance photographer who could turn an empty street into art. We met 2 years ago on an online photography forum. Maybe I was drawn to her chaos, or maybe she liked my calm. Either way, it worked, until Jake showed up, Jake and her ex. The "we're just good friends now, ex." That line alone should have been the red flag, but I bought it. I wanted to believe her. Then came the weekend projects, the ones that somehow lasted all day. Then the Instagram stories, a margarita glass, a dim bar, Jake's reflection in the background. The caption always said "old friends, new memories," and me, sitting at home, staring at my laptop screen, pretending to code while writing nothing. I told myself this was what a mature relationship looked like. But trust, without honesty, is just silence with a smile. One night, I finally asked, "Do you think maybe you could spend fewer weekends with him? I just miss you." She looked at me, half smiled, and said, "You know what's scary? Being with someone who wants to control everything." That sentence echoed in my head for days. Was I controlling? Or was I just asking for the bare minimum of respect? Then little things started happening. She'd come home late, phone off, smell like someone else's cologne. When I asked, she sighed dramatically and said, "I wasn't feeling well." Jake drove me home. "Can you not make a scene, please?" The next day she told our mutual friend Maya that I'd been acting paranoid and jealous. When Maya asked me, I laughed it off. "She's just tired." It's nothing. But deep down I knew something inside me was starting to rot. The imbalance between us grew quietly, like a crack under fresh paint. Emily would say she hated men who needed emotional reassurance. She could cry over a movie, but go cold as stone when I tried to talk about my feelings. She'd say, "I'm not responsible for how you feel." It sounded empowering until she used it as a shield to justify hurting me. Then came that Friday night. I got off work early, decided to cook dinner, maybe hit reset. The apartment was empty. A note on the counter read, "Don't wait up." Out with Jake and some old friends. At 2 a.m. she came home, smelling like rain and whiskey and someone else's attention. "Did you have fun?" I asked. "Yeah, maybe you should go out more instead of waiting around, Ethan." She said it like she was giving advice, not cutting me open. I just stood there, watching her disappear into the bathroom, feeling like a guest in my own home. After that, every conversation became a contest of silence. I tried, she withdrew. I spoke, she smiled. And every time I said something that hurt, she whispered, "You're playing the victim again." Those words hit harder than shouting ever could. She didn't have to scream. Just plant doubt deep enough that I'd do the rest myself. Every boundary I tried to draw became proof that I was too much. Then one morning, I opened Instagram. A photo of Jake hugging her from behind. The caption said, "Some things last." I stared at it for a long time. Not angry, not surprised, just empty. Because I realized I wasn't one of those things anymore. What hurt wasn't the betrayal itself, but how casually she turned it into art. That afternoon my phone buzzed. A text from Emily. "Hey, I'll swing by later to grab a few things, just a few things." But I knew she wasn't coming to take her stuff. She was coming to take whatever was left of me. I set the phone down. The rain outside had stopped, but the city still sounded wet. And right there, in the quiet of that apartment, I realized the only thing I still had control over was silence. And if silence was what she wanted, then I'd show her exactly how loud it could get. Tu yet voi. Jai la parte 2. Public humiliation and climax. Ban dich tieng anjai ju. Amasi in 600 characters. Theo Jong spoken confession tun hien. Chan thukn humot baike that tren redditnarator. Nip van jo gyao kam suk. The hien ro kautrau vahan vi gaslighting. Public humiliation. It rained that afternoon. Not the heavy kind. Just the slow, constant drizzle that makes the whole city feel tired. I got home early and cleaned up the apartment. Not for her, but for me. I needed to feel like I still had control over something. At 4:30 sharp, the doorbell rang. Emily stood there, wet jacket, hair stuck to her cheeks, holding that same tote bag I'd bought her last year. The one she used for her camera gear, now stuffed with the leftovers of our life together. You doing okay? Her tone was casual, polite, like she was asking a neighbor about the weather. I nodded. Yeah. You? Fine. Just came to grab a few things. She walked in without waiting for an invitation and went straight into the bedroom. I heard drawers opening, hangers clinking, her perfume floating through the air. That scent that once meant home now smelled like someone else's skin. I stood in the kitchen, making coffee just to give my hands something to do. Need any help? I called out. No, I'm used to doing this. Those words hit me harder than they should have. Used to doing this. Used to packing up. Used to leaving. Used to walking away before anyone could leave her first. She came out holding a small box. Her eyes landed on a framed photo on the shelf. The two of us in Portland laughing like idiots. You still kept that? Yeah, I said. Haven't gotten around to deleting it. She smiled faintly. You've always been sentimental, huh? Not really, I said. It's not nostalgia. It's just a reminder of how wrong I can be about people. Her smile faded. Her phone buzzed. Jake's name lit up on the screen for a second before she flipped it over. He's waiting in the car, she said softly. I figured. There was a pause, the kind that fills a room like fog. Ethan, I don't want things to end badly. We just grew apart. I looked toward the photo on the wall. Maybe we did. When you took that picture, I thought we were looking in the same direction. Guess you were just framing the shot. Her eyes darted away. Then she took a breath and put her mask back on. You're overreacting. Jake's just a friend. You're making this all about jealousy. I met her gaze. People don't just hold hands in photos with their friends. Emily, and you don't get to tell me how betrayal is supposed to feel. The air between us went heavy. She opened her mouth to say something else, but I cut her off. You know what's funny? I was going to propose last month. The ring's still in the drawer. Guess I should thank you for saving me the trouble. Her eyes widened. Ethan, Jake's waiting, I said quietly. You shouldn't keep him in the rain. She froze for half a second, then left. The door shut behind her with that soft finality that hurts more than slamming ever could. Only the rain kept talking, tapping against the windows like it was trying to fill the silence. I thought that was it. That it was over. But 20 minutes later, my phone buzzed. A text from Maya, her closest friend. Hey, are you okay? What happened between you and Emily? I typed back the short version. Then she replied, I'm asking because Emily just posted a story saying you kicked her out when she came to talk things through like adults. People are talking. I opened Instagram. And there it was, and a picture of the ring sitting on my table. Caption, when someone tries to control you with promises, hundreds of likes, dozens of comments, people calling me toxic, controlling, emotionally unstable, and the worst part? She didn't tag me. She didn't have to. Everyone already knew who I was. I didn't even feel angry. Just numb. Emily had always been good at controlling the narrative. She'd mastered the art of playing victim, the calm, rational one dealing with the emotional wreck. I set my phone down. The rain outside kept falling. Same rhythm as my heartbeat. For the first time, something inside me just switched off. Not in defeat, not in rage, but in clarity. She'd just humiliated me publicly, and she thought that was the ending. It wasn't. I got up, grabbed a notebook and wrote down 3 lines. Change the locks, cut the access, clean the data. Not out of revenge, not to hurt her, but to restore balance, to finally draw the boundary she'd been crossing for months. If she wanted to make this story public, fine. I'd show her what public really looks like, and for the first time in a long time I smiled, not because I was happy, but because I finally stopped caring about playing the good guy in her story. I didn't reply to Maya, didn't check the comments under Emily's post either. She wanted an audience, let her have one. But this time I wasn't going to play a role in her performance. I turned off my phone, opened my laptop and started typing. Not a text, not a post, an email. To my landlord. In our lease I was the only tenant. Emily was listed as a guest. So I wrote, the guest previously staying with me will no longer be residing at the property. Please schedule a lock change by the weekend, 6 minutes. 1 click. And just like that, one chapter of my life quietly closed. Next, I logged into the shared drive, the one Emily and I used for her freelance projects. I'd set it up for her through my company's marketing department. Guess whose name was on the ownership contract? Mine. I revoked her access, transferred the data back to corporate storage, and archived the files. No anger, no shaking hands, just quiet order. That evening, Maya called again. Ethan, are you okay? Emily's saying you're deleting her work and cancelling her clients out of spite. I'm not deleting anything, I said. I'm just returning what belongs to the company. She says you're trying to ruin her. No, I replied. I'm just making sure my name isn't attached to hers anymore. Maya sighed softly. I figured as much. I just needed to hear it from you. The next morning, Emily texted me. Can you send me those files? I need them for a client delivery. I read it. Didn't answer. An hour later, she called. Her voice cracked, not from sadness, but from frustration. Ethan, what the hell are you doing? You know I need those files. Everything in that drive belongs to the company, Emily, I said calmly. I'm following protocol. You're doing this to screw me over? No. I'm doing this to remind you that actions have ownership. You might want to start shooting new ones. You're good at that, remember? There was a pause, the kind that tells you the other person just realized they've lost control. Then she hung up. I leaned back in my chair and stared at the ceiling. There wasn't any satisfaction, not really. Just an odd quiet, the kind that feels like peace disguised as emptiness. 2 days later, an email came in from the furniture brand Emily had been working with. Hey Ethan, thanks for sending the copyright forms. You saved us from a potential legal issue. I replied with one line, glad I could help. Transparency matters. Simple, neutral. Enough for them to understand everything they needed to. 3 days later, Emily's post disappeared. Her profile went silent. No more stories. No more cryptic quotes about healing or setting boundaries. Maya texted me a screenshot from their group chat. Emily was trying to explain that it had all been a misunderstanding. I didn't respond. Didn't even smile. Some things just unravel on their own when you stop holding them up. A week later, while cleaning out my desk, I found the ring, still in its box, still mocking me with how much meaning it used to have. I took it to the balcony and set it on the railing. The city lights bounced off it like it was trying to stay relevant. I took a photo of it, not to post, just to capture the moment. Then I changed my mind. Opened Instagram, uploaded the photo, and typed 3 words. Some things end, no tags. No names, just truth. Within an hour, it had hundreds of likes, even a few from her old friends. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel sad either. I just felt done, like the dust had finally settled after a long storm. A few days later, Maya showed up at my office with coffee and a small envelope. Emily wanted me to give you this, she said. Inside was the photo from Portland, the same one she'd laughed at weeks ago. On the back, in her handwriting, it said, "You probably want this more than I do." I smiled, folded it neatly, and put it in a drawer. Then I locked it, not because I wanted to keep it, but because some memories are safer when contained. That night, I sat on the balcony again, coffee in hand, watching the rain smear the city lights across the glass. Seattle was still grey, still wet, but for the first time in months it didn't feel heavy. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I looked at it for a few seconds, marked it as read, and turned off my phone, because I'd finally learned something rare. Silence doesn't mean losing. Sometimes it's the loudest truth of all. Perfect. Below is part 4, Resolution and Satisfying Ending, the final chapter of Silence as Closure, written in natural spoken confession style, like a real Reddit post that wraps everything with calm clarity, emotional closure, and quiet strength. Length, 7,700 characters. 3 weeks later, Seattle finally stopped raining. I moved into a smaller apartment near Lake Union. Quiet, bright mine. No second toothbrush. No cold coffee sitting on the counter. Just me. A window that caught the morning light, and the sound of the espresso machine humming like routine. One morning, an email came in from the furniture brand Emily had been working with. "Hey, Ethan. Thanks again for handling the copyright paperwork. Emily's withdrawn from the project. We've got someone else now," I replied with one simple line, happy to help. Transparency matters. As I hit send, it clicked. Fairness doesn't need to shout. It just needs patience and a paper trail. For the first time in months, I didn't feel the need to defend myself. The truth had already done that for me. A week later, Maya texted me, asking if I wanted to grab coffee. We met at a quiet cafe downtown. She told me Emily had deleted her old social accounts and moved to Oregon to live with her sister. Apparently, she barely left the house, trying to start over. I nodded. Didn't ask for more. Maya hesitated before asking, "Are you mad at her?" I smiled. "No, I'm grateful." "Grateful?" "Yeah, because she taught me something I should have learned earlier. That love isn't about patience to the point of self-destruction. It's about mutual respect. And once that's gone, staying is just self-harm." Maya didn't say anything for a while. She just nodded, then changed the subject. I think she understood. Life slowly fell back into rhythm. I started running again in the mornings, signed up for an advanced photography class, and bought an old film camera, the kind that forces you to slow down and see the world properly. Every time I looked through the lens, I realized my focus had shifted. I wasn't looking for her anymore. I was just seeing things as they were. One Saturday afternoon, I stopped by a small cafe in Capitol Hill. The barista had short hair and a calm voice. She noticed my camera and smiled. "You shoot film?" "Yeah," I said. "Mostly reflections." "Light on water," she nodded thoughtfully. "That's my favorite too. Light on water never lies. It only reflects what's really there." That line hit me harder than it should have. "Yeah," I said. "It doesn't fake what it sees even when you wish it would." We talked for a while, nothing deep, nothing flirty, just easy. Before I left, she wrote something on my coffee cup. "Hope you find your light." I laughed quietly on my way out. The sidewalk was still damp from earlier rain, glowing like glass. And for the first time, that reflection didn't hurt to look at. That night, while cleaning out a drawer, I found the ring again, the one that had carried so much weight, so many what-ifs. I took it to a pawn shop the next morning. The old man behind the counter looked up and asked, "You want to sell it or keep it as a reminder?" "Sell it," I said. "But if anyone buys it, tell them it belonged to a guy who finally learned the value of silence." He chuckled, nodded, and took it from me. As I stepped outside, the air felt lighter, like I'd traded something heavy for peace. That night I sat on my balcony, camera in hand. The lake shimmered under the streetlights. I took one photo, the reflection of the city melting into the water. Then I posted it on Instagram. No tags, no hashtags, no quotes, just a caption that said, "Closure looks like this." The first comment came from Maya. "Looks like you finally found the light." I smiled, locked my phone, and set it face down on the table. There was nothing left to prove, nothing left to fix. Every word that needed to be said had already been spoken, by silence itself. I think there are two kinds of people in this world, those who scream their story to be believed, and those who live well enough for the story to tell itself. I know which one I've become. Outside, the streetlights flickered on, scattering across the lake like gold dust. And in that quiet glow, I finally understood why I loved this city. Because even when it's grey, the light always finds a way back. I closed my eyes, breathed in the cold air, and for the first time in a long time, I felt peace. Because sometimes silence isn't weakness. It's closure in its purest form.